Good afternoon. Welcome to episode 4 of Percussionistics. As always, I am joined by my ride or die, Glenn Jones. Doctor, how are you this afternoon?
I am fantastic, Colin. Thawing out a little bit.
Oh,
Excited to
isn't
be
it
here with you.
nice? Isn't it nice? The weather. I mean, when 40 degrees is a heat wave right now, and we're
Right.
thrilled. Got the car window down, got the tunes cranked. I'm
The
like,
Tommy
this is,
Bahama
yeah, I'm,
shorts.
I'm like, this is great. It's 42 degrees. So I told you I prepared a little bit of a monologue for this episode. So if you don't mind, I'd like to take the floor for just a second. So for those of you that listen in, a little peek behind the curtain. When you do a podcast, and I've been lucky enough to be included in a couple now for the past few years, you always have an agenda. You always have a doc that you're working off of, and typically you'll also have a an idea list. You'll have something sort of a creative doc out there, and what you do is you pull one off the creative list, of course, and then craft your doc that you use for the episode. So Glenn and I have this list. I've mentioned it before, probably, I don't know, 20, 25, 30 ideas, whatever it was, we're throwing down there on this. And Glenn came to me and said, listen, I got something I think would be a great topic. And he said, what if you had a band that the drummer quit or just left all of a sudden? What would happen to some of those bands? And I was like, you know what? That sounds like a good a topic as any. So I start getting my homework done. Glenn, we got the doc going that we're going to use, and we've got our news segments and things. And Glenn says to me, I don't think I'm going to participate in this one. I think I'm just going to let you do it. And so he didn't do any of his homework, kids. He decided to just let me fly solo. Glenn, did I accurately give a good picture of where we are before we start talking about the topic today?
The words were correct. The concept and the context were really jacked up, Colin.
Okay.
And I kind of expected
Okay.
that from you.
Okay, then let's fix it. Go
All
ahead,
right.
sir.
So, as Colin said, everything was true. I said, Colin, I think this would be a great idea. Now, I think we have to take into consideration when this conversation took places. August 2025. Now, at that point, the reason why I came up with that idea, just I was spitballing ideas, and I was thinking about the band Rush, right? Neil Peart died, and the band didn't get back together, right? So I'm thinking, okay, wow, what other bands were like that? And then figured if we dug into it a little bit, we'd find some. Then I moved on. Then in October 6th, 2025, Rush announced they were getting back together. Geddy Lee, Alex Lifeson said that they were going to do this again. Anika Nealis is going to be their drummer. So then I didn't really pay attention to the ramification of that on this topic, even though I picked it. I understand. But the thing is, when you really think about it, Colin, all right, let's think of the three most influential, perhaps considered the best rock drummers in music:
Okay.
Neil Peart, John Bonham, and Keith Moon.
Okay.
All of them kept going after their drummer died. So, in the words of Ian Malcolm in Jurassic Park, he said, life finds a way. The
Hmm.
truth is, bands find a way, Colin. When Keith Moon died in 1978, they got Kenny Jones in 79. A few months later, they kept going. Led Zeppelin, got back together in 84 with Tony Thompson, and then got back together full scale in 2007. Actually, going back to Keith Moon, remember he passed out at one point during a performance. They
I've
grabbed the
heard that.
guy out of the audience to play. Bands keep going, you know. And like I said, Rush. Back if there was a band that wasn't going to rejoin when they lost their drummer, it would have been Rush. So that's my exhibit A of when a band leaves a drummer, they keep going. They may not be quite as good, but they keep going. So there's my homework, Colin. That's the context, folks. I submit for your
Okay.
consideration.
The defense rests, right?
Yes.
So, but in this episode, I'm going to list three bands that who didn't lose their drummer, right? But the assignment was, what if they had lost their drummer? Correct?
So here's the thing, and here's another thing. We've
Because I've
learned a
got my
whole lot of.
three. I've got
We've
my three.
learned, Colin. I've learned from the last episode that you're not that you are prone for some chicanery. And
No,
so
never.
I'm guessing that these bands that you pull out are going to be the Pankel Shrimp Bistro Boys that you saw in 1986, and they sold one T-shirt, and you own it.
First of all, you're the only person to use chicanery in a recorded message. So thank you. Second, no, I have mainstream bands that we're going to talk about.
And these are bands everybody's going to know.
Yes.
Oh, I can't wait
All
to
right.
hear
But
these.
first from the news desk, Doctor, you've got some follow-up. Now I know you did this homework. You've got some. Oh, by the way, my little twist. I have no news items this week. This time, since you didn't do that assignment, I skipped the news part because I know you've got two. So
I do have two.
okay,
And I'm excited about these. All right. So I mentioned in episode 3 that the Drumeo Awards were nominated. At least the nominees for the Drumeo Awards categories were announced. And again, for those who don't know, Drumeo is what is now the Modern Drummer magazine was back then, right? That was the most popular publication for drummers. Well, now we're an electronic society, so now it's Drumeo. So Drumeo publishes or gives awards for different categories every year, much like Modern Drummer did. Modern Drummer is still a great source, but Drumeo is the champion of the drumming medium these days. So the before I only announced the nominees. Now the winners have been announced. And those winners include, for like drum performance of the year, Travis Barker, Chad Smith, and Danny Carey all won. So I guess they tied. I guess they're going to take the
wait, they
award.
all had the rock performance of the year.
They all did. So I guess they take the
Okay.
award and divide it in thirds.
They get it 3 months, and then it switches hands or something.
You have to send
Okay.
it to the next
That's
person.
right. Danny, send us over here. You give it to Chad now.
Right. Another area was the YouTube Drummer of the Year, and his or her name is 66 Samus. I'm again not familiar, but I do want to point out that Colin, your
Yes.
boy,
Yes.
Mike Portnoy,
Yes.
won Progressive Drummer of the Year.
Fantastic.
By far, the biggest winner was a drummer named Two, the drummer for Sleep Token. Now, he was nominated for Drummer of the Year, Drum Recording of the Year, and Metal Drummer of the Year. And he swept all those categories.
So he is the drummer of the year.
He's the drummer of the year.
Nice.
So he won the Oscar for Best Actor.
Okay.
All right. Now, up until last episode, I had never heard of him before. But after sweeping all those categories, I figured I'd give him a listen. Now, Colin did mention when I mentioned Sleep Token last episode, he said they wear masks and hoods and the kind of dark imagery.
Right.
So, of course, I'm expecting this kind of harsh, dark music. They're labeled prog metal. I'm not sure they fit neatly into that category. Yes, there's elements of those genres in their material, but you know what? There's R&B, there's pop, there's jazz. So let me just getting back to the drumming. Colin, unbelievable. Unbelievable. I haven't been this excited about a drummer since Carter Beauford.
When you said that in text, I got to tell you, man, that's for you. That's apex. That's elite level. I mean, Carter, that for you, that is saying a lot.
Colin, not too long ago, you and I had a conversation with someone, and she mentioned that there's nobody in modern times, drummers, that impact her. And I understood what she was saying. That, look, there's really good drummers out there. There's good drumming out there. But I don't find that all the time there's drumming that moves you. They do what you'd expect in an excellent way. But then every once in a while, you have a drummer that comes along and doesn't do what you expect in an excellent way, where you go, my God, how do you even think about doing that, let alone pulling it off?
Right.
This guy is amazing. So I listened to an interview that he did. It's the only interview that he did, and his voice is altered. He's in all regalia.
Sure. Yep.
But he's explaining that, like, some of his influences, of course, are the metal drummers, some prog drummers. But he said a lot of his influence comes from gospel drumming. And when you're listening to that, you see that. I mean, you hear it. It's how he put all this stuff together. There's the song that made me fall in love with Carter Beauford is a song called Number 41. It's a really good song by Dave Matthews Band that showcases all of the band. But the way that Carter plays it is a little bit different than the way he normally plays other songs, but it kind of sums up his playing. Well, there's a song by Sleep Token called The Love You Want. All I can say, folks, if you're not familiar with them, listen to that song. Listen to the way his intro, what he does during the verses, his blast, and the jazz feel, the double bass drum. You're gonna be hooked. You're gonna be hooked. It may be that you don't necessarily like the music, even though I don't think that you won't. It's not like really heavy prog metal, death metal stuff. But the drumming is so engaging and captivating that it makes the music go down easy. And to me, it's kind of like the Dave Matthews Band. I don't think I would like the Dave Matthews Band without Carter. But with Carter, the band's one of my favorite bands. And I'd have to say Sleep Token is in that category.
Wow. I have the video on now, quietly playing in the background, because now I want to check out The Love You Want. But I will tell you, Glenn, that there is a personal triumph for me. Now, we're only 4 episodes in, but 2 things happened. One, you brought the new love for somebody, right? I'm always the guy dropping the band names. You were like, no, I'll drop Sleep Token's name, which is fantastic. And 2, you're the one now talking some metal edged type of pop rock kind of stuff, and I just think it's great. So my work here is done, folks. I have completely transformed Glenn now to somebody that's going to be a Sleep Token fan. What else can you ask for?
Well, job well done. You can send your congratulations to number 2.
There you go. That's right.
Oh, and by the way, I think his identity may be revealed. So it's kind of funny. I was talking to my son, and I said, this may be a situation where everybody knows that Clark Kent is Superman. And it's like, dude, we all know. You can take the glasses off. We know.
Right. I don't hear the drums yet in this song. It's got a nice little...
wait till they
mellow.
come in. I will. Give it a wait.
So while I'm waiting for this, you said Danny Carey, Travis Barker, and somebody else, Chad Smith, right?
Yes.
One rock performance. I have to tell you, I struggle with giving it to 3 people. I thought about that. First of all, I think that that's kind of a cop-out. I really do. Because when you look at these names, these are major names, right? Major drummers that have crazy followers, been around for a long time. I was just talking to somebody the other day at the dojo where I practice, and I said to him that we're doing an episode, on what would happen if drummers left. His answer was, if Danny Carey left Tool would fold. Thoughts?
I think that you could put a drummer in there like your boy, Mike Portnoy, Mike Mangini. I'm not saying that they would do it as well. I would say the band would survive.
Okay. So I thought it was great that he mentioned him, and now you just said that again. They split it amongst. I really wish they would have picked one.
Hmm.
Again, I think it's kind of a cop out to say we're just going to hit real popular names. Now I don't know Drumeo very well. You do. Is this one of those? Is this one of those things like the Rock Hall of Participation, as I call it, where you just if you did it, people are going to want to see you get in because they need business, they need names, they need exhibits. Is that how Drumeo is? Is it a popularity contest more than a skill contest? Did all three guys really land equally in 2025?
Yeah. So even though I would hope that that's not it, that just seems to be the most reasonable explanation.
How do can we vote as fans? Can we, when it's time, can I go on a website somewhere and I can click who I want to vote for, or is it done all by their own board of directors or whatever?
Yeah, that's a great question because I
Thanks.
know with Modern Drummer, when they did do their awards, I don't know if they still do them, but it was by subscribers. You could vote.
Right.
I don't know if Drumeo is that way.
All right. Well, so there's a little more
Yeah.
follow up for the next time we talk Drumeo.
Look, I'm not afraid because last time I, I checked out
I'm
Drumeo,
not
I walked out
afraid.
with somebody who
That's
may be
right.
one of my favorite drummers.
I'm not afraid. That's great. All right. So on to our topic. So as we said at the beginning of the episode, so I took this assignment to be who would fold, not I get the life will go on, or life will find a way. Jeff Gold, nice shout out to Jurassic Park. I get all that, but I took it as bands that just would have been done. So the first band that I want to talk about is Motley Crue. Now, I don't know how familiar you are. I know you know of Motley Crue. All of
Hmm.
our listeners know of Motley Crue. I don't know, Glenn, how familiar you are with the history of Motley Crue, but back in the 80s, debauchery, insanity, drug use, womanizing, crimes, accidents, you name it, these guys were completely out of control. So I was thinking about again what would happen to where a band would actually stop. And
Hmm.
I think had Tommy Lee died, because I'm not sure if you're aware, but Nikki Sixx at one point died
Hmm.
and he was revived. I think had Tommy Lee overdosed and died in the 80s, I don't see Motley Crue going on. I don't see Nikki Sixx, because Nikki Sixx and Tommy were the cohorts in a lot of that nonsensical, terrible behavior that they had going on. Vince was the face, right? They got him because he was the pretty boy back then, and the women loved him, and that's why they put him up front. And Mick Mars, much older, and although he was certainly a drinker and did his share of I'm sure nonsense things, he really wasn't. He was kind of the uncle of the group or the father of the group. He really wasn't part of the two that really caused the most issues. That was a Nicky and Tommy thing. I think if Tommy again had been the one to OD and die, I don't see Motley Crue going on with another drummer. I know they would have tried it, but do you think it would have worked? Do you think you could have just said, "Fine, Tommy's dead. Now here's somebody else we're going to throw behind the kit, and he's going to spin upside down and be out of control"?
Colin, I take no joy in this. Actually, I take a lot of joy in this because I've been taking a lot of beatings from you. Um, does the name Samantha Maloney sound familiar to you?
It does not. Who's Samantha
Samantha
Maloney?
Maloney is the drummer for Hole, who filled in for Tommy Lee when Motley Crue went out. I don't know how long, but I know she was with them. They also had like 3 other drummers. I don't know if Tommy Lee was in rehab, if he was in the doghouse with the band, but they had other drummers. So,
For which recordings?
um,
Because I thought he was on all the studio recordings. I could be
it,
wrong,
no,
but I
it
thought he
was
was on all the studio recordings.
okay. So now, are we talking only recording, or are we talking live performances?
Well, with live performances, I would imagine there have been times when people have subbed in and out for him, depending upon, yes, what condition his condition was in. But I'm talking about the band folding. If he was gone, I would be surprised if they would have recorded more music without him.
All right. So,
But hey,
if
listen, take your joy in this,
oh,
of which you're taking no joy. But yes, you
I'm
are.
taking I'm taking so much joy in taking no joy in this. Okay, so let's go back to our marquee drummer with this. Let's say that Neil Peart got sick and during a tour. Could Rush have continued?
Well, you and I already agreed, no, they shouldn't have, and they wouldn't have, although time has now proved us wrong.
They got back together. So if we're saying that Rush is the most unlikely band to have continued a tour or gone on tour without Neil Peart, then I think that we have to say that would be the case with any band, right?
Okay.
So Motley Crue went on tour in 2000 with Samantha Maloney.
Okay.
Right. So they didn't stay home and waited for Tommy Lee to, get back on track, whatever knocked them off track. They kept going. My thought would be if they could tour with them, they could probably use that person in the studio. They kept going. So now that's just my opinion. But other drummers have played with Motley Crue in the absence of Tommy Lee.
So far,
But we've learned.
what we've learned, folks, is that Glenn did not do the assignment and will now shoot down all of my answers. So far, I'm 0 for 1. This is quite the episode. This is great.
It's not so much shooting down your answers. It's about standing behind my opinion that life goes on.
Okay.
And you just served up a grapefruit of an example. So if that's the best you got, Colin.
Wow. Okay. This is well, listen, folks, we had 4 episodes. It was a blast. That's all I can tell you. So we'll see y'all around. See y'all around out there. But before I get to my second one, now that I have consumed the Love You Want video, his drumming is very good. I definitely agree with Glenn. You got to check that out. Okay. Number 2. Boy, I'll tell you what, I'm a little hesitant after number 1. So I was, again, thinking about drummers. Now, when you think about, and I went classic rock with this one. So in the 70s, the Eagles were huge. And when you look at what they've got hit-wise, song-wise, I think if Don Henley had quit the Eagles, being one of the songwriters, one of the singers, one of the producers, the drummer, all those guys in my mind would have splintered and gone on to solo careers. I don't think the Eagles would have lasted. I think Glenn Frey would have left. I think Joe Walsh would have found other things because they all did, right? They all splintered off into other directions. So my second one I give you, sir, for you to
dismantle
is the Eagles losing Don Henley in the 70s.
So my guess is that you're stating your opinion on just Don Henley, the person, and his other contributions to the band, but not necessarily his drumming.
Well, I mean, he was a co-creator of the group, unless I'm wrong, which I'm learning now I am in many other areas. But I believe, and again, I know he was a songwriter. He sang many of their hits, right? He sang Witchy Woman and Desperado and One of These Nights in Hotel California, Life in the Fast Lane. I mean, this guy's voice was a major radio presence. But all of a sudden, let's say, because I think what I'm looking at is all of them. I mean, the Eagles really spawned a lot of major careers outside of the Eagles, right? They all kind of had their thing, very successfully had their thing. And to me, like right now, Don Henley's the only reason the Eagles are around anymore, right? He just did an interview. He's like, yeah, we're gonna roll at the Sphere a few more times, and that'll probably be it. He's the only guy keeping it together now, so why wouldn't he have been the only guy keeping it together in the 70s?
I'm going to partially not agree with you.
Oh, I was waiting for the word agree.
I'm going to partially say I understand your thinking. But then on the other side, I'm going, yeah, no way, Colin. If you're saying that it's because Don Henley's
Yes, when I was in
leadership.
the Eagles.
When you were in the
I remember the
Eagles,
70s well. Yes, we toured a lot when I was in the Eagles.
if you're saying because of Don Henley's other creative contributions to the band, his leadership, and maybe able to keep all those diverse personalities together, maybe. But if you're saying it only because of his drumming, there's
No,
there's no way.
not definitely not only because of his drumming, but I think his drumming has to be considered with his presence entirely. You can't change who the person is, right? They are just like you just said right now. If you're going to consider number 2 as part of Sleep Token and he's an amazing drummer, there's, I'm sure, many other things that drummer brings to that group other than just amazing drumming. And
Mhm.
so I'm saying same thing with Tommy Lee, right? I didn't say just about Tommy Lee's drumming; it's Tommy Lee's partnership with Nicky. Same thing with Don Henley. The question was, the assignment was, if the drummer quits or dies, they fold. And I'm thinking the Eagles could have folded if Don Henley had quit. And you heard him, folks. He said, "I'm not going to say the word agree," but he didn't say I was entirely wrong.
I'm saying from a creative contribution standpoint, you're not completely wrong, maybe. But Neil Peart was the primary writer for Rush, right? That's really their most popular songs he wrote. Um, they got back together. So I don't know. I don't think that Don Henley's contribution to the Eagles was more influential or impactful than Neil Peart's was to Rush, and Rush got back together. So I'm giving you just because I love you and you're my friend, and I'm feeling bad for the trouncing that I've been
Oh,
giving you. Oh,
you are trouncing me to no end right now.
I see what you're saying from a musical contribution standpoint. From a drumming standpoint, I think that you can get a really good studio musician and they could cover the Eagles thing. And last time I checked, this was a drumming podcast.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. Well,
And
it should still be. I might just put my pen down in a moment and take my headphones off. But okay. Well, okay, fine. Here we go. We'll try number 3. And I have another idea. I'm going to call an audible halfway through this episode because I'm getting trounced, to use your word. So I'm going to try something else. But since we did the assignment number 3, Van Halen. Van Halen, if Alex had quit, how could his brother Eddie have ever considered having a band when his brother leaves? Not
yeah.
only is not only is Alex a presence in Van Halen, and I think, a considerable drummer of talent in terms of what it is that they produced, I would think had he decided all of a sudden one day, this is ridiculous, Eddie, I'm not going to live a lifestyle like this. Because again, back when, a lot of smoking, a lot of drinking, Eddie out of hand, a lot of cocaine usage and all that stuff. What if he had said, dude, I can't watch my brother, destroy himself like this. And instead of living that same life and doing all the debauchery they did, what if Alex had walked away? I think if Alex had left Van Halen, I think Van Halen would have folded. That's the next one I lay at your feet, sir. Feel free to stomp as you wish.
Colin, so I'm first of all, I think even though as well regarded as Alex Van Halen is as a drummer, I still think he's a little bit underrated. Just his power and his articulation, I think, is really, really unique. But I'm going to go back into the legal annals and explain why you're right on this one.
What?
Yeah, you're right. You know why? I don't know if this was true or if he was just saying it, but Eddie said that Van Halen is named after Alex.
Okay.
Kind of hard to keep a band together when the namesake is no longer part of the band.
Well, that is true. One would agree. One would think.
I think that there's other drummers that could have filled in. Of course, no band, even if you got a band whose original drummer left and then their replacement was a better drummer, the band is still going to be different. So if they brought other drummers in that wasn't Alex Van Halen, it's going to be different. There's no question. But it would still survive. The reason the band would fold is because the namesake is gone in the case of Van Halen, if Alex left.
Okay. I got one. 1 for 3.
You did. And I dug deep to give you that one.
Oh, yeah, it's a belated gift, is that what you're saying? All right. Well, that exhausts my list. But like I said, I want to call an audible a little bit. So here's what I'd like to do, sir. I am going to pick names. Now, I went back to the Rolling Stone Top 100 because I can't keep all these names in my head.
Mm-hmm.
And we're just going to kind of power through a bunch of these because it sounds to me like you are going to have a very hard time being convinced that people would fold without their drummer. So let me throw a couple. Are you ready?
Yes.
All right, Travis Barker. He just won. Does Blink 182 fold without Travis Barker?
This one is hard for me to be able to just slam dunk because I'm not really a Blink 82 fan. So, not saying I don't like their material. I'm just not that familiar with it. Now, my thought would maybe be like a drummer like Trey Cool could probably step in there, or a drummer like that. I don't know. Like, to take your perspective of it, the other things that they bring to the table, I don't know if he's a writer. I don't know if he founded the band,
Mm-hmm.
So can I take a no contest on that?
A no contest? Listen to you. A no contest. All right. Next is Chad Smith. Does the Red Hot Chili Peppers fold? Do they fold without Chad Smith?
All right. I think that Chad Smith wasn't their original drummer. So the fact that they had another drummer besides Chad Smith, yeah, they could keep going. You get a drummer like Questlove could step in easily, and not taking anything away from Chad Smith, because Chad Smith's a phenomenal drummer, but so is Questlove and drummers like that. So now, Colin, I just have a hard time thinking, as much as I love drums, that the absence of a drummer based only on his skill is going to cause the band to fold. So, but I welcome your other submissions.
Peter Criss. Does Kiss fold early on when Peter Criss quits?
Paul Stanley said that if he had the choice of Peter Criss and John Bonham, they would have picked John Bonham. And he said that would have been the wrong choice. But you know what, Colin? They would have figured it out.
Man. Okay, so there's no way that they would have, that Kiss would have walked away if their drummer hadn't quit, or if their drummer had quit.
If Paul Stanley and Gene Simmons are being genuine when they said that they got to a point where they just couldn't, it was just untenable to continue with Peter Criss and Ace Frehley. Paul said, we couldn't have been the band that we became without them, but we couldn't be the band that we are with them. If it was really a personality thing, what would they have been like if Eric Carr would have been that first drummer? A lot easier to get along with, technically a better drummer. Obviously, he can play Peter Criss stuff because he did it for years.
Yes, he did.
Or Eric Singer. All
right.
Yeah.
I have a thought, but I'm going to keep going. Mick Fleetwood. No. Mick Fleetwood leaves Fleetwood Mac.
From a drumming standpoint, Mick Fleetwood's one of my favorite drummers. So I'm not just saying this to try to win an argument. I think
I'm going to get one, but keep going.
There's his drumming. His drumming's unique, but it's not. I don't want to say substitute, but it's not that someone can't go in and play like that. You can take some elements of Mick Fleetwood's drumming and I can replicate. That's the word I'm looking for, folks. The big words. His drumming's not something that can't be replicated. You take number 2 out of Sleep Token and you put another drummer in there, the band will continue. but they're not going to be able to execute what he does. Their vocabulary probably isn't going to be as expansive. Mick Fleetwood does little subtle things that are relatively easy, but just interesting that he puts those easy notes and those easy approaches where he puts them. That's what makes him so unique. So I think other drummers could do that.
Okay. Phil Collins leaves Genesis. Does Genesis fold?
Yep, they just keep Chester Thompson.
Wait, yes, they fold, or no, they don't fold?
No, they don't fold.
They don't fold.
Nope, they keep Chester Thompson.
Okay. Carter Beauford leaves Dave Matthews Band.
That's probably your last one, and I was almost ready
my
for
last
this.
one?
No, it's not. That was was it?
No, it wasn't my last one. No.
I knew that was in your pitching arsenal. That's your heater, right?
No. I got one more heater.
Okay.
Trust me, I got a couple.
Okay. So Dave Matthews did a solo album called Some Blue Devil. He used another drummer. I don't remember who the drummer is. I don't believe that he certainly doesn't play like Carter. A lot of times the reason that a musician does a solo album outside of their own band, like Tom Petty did his own stuff, is to kind of get away from the sound that the band brings. Carter and Jeff Porcaro, Tony Thompson are my favorite drummers.
Oh, I know.
Number 2's creeping in there, man. So to say that, I think Dave Matthews Band would continue without Carter would hurt me. I think they'd find a way. He just couldn't play like Carter, but he'd figure something out.
Okay, so what about Jeff Porcaro leaving Toto?
They'd get somebody like Simon Phillips, like they did when he died. Yeah. So they did that.
So they've already done that. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm gonna. I don't know if I'm gonna have success. I really don't. You have. How about Dave Grohl leaving Nirvana? Now that's
then
only
they get Taylor Hawkins.
But Taylor Hawkins wasn't playing drums back when Dave Grohl started in Nirvana, was he?
But I'm saying that if you have people out there who...
But I'm talking about the point in time. I'm not talking about today. I'm saying that these people are gone. When Jeff Porcaro passes, if he passes early, Toto's at the apex, right? This is Hold the Line. This is before Africa. This is Hold the Line time. This is when Toto's becoming, a radio hit. You're telling me Jeff dies, that band still just pushes on and says, nope, I'm going to get the next guy in line.
Yeah, I think that they would. I think that they would get another drummer who played for Steely Dan. They would get like a Rick Marotta. They could get a Bernard Purdy. They could put somebody else in there. Of course, their hearts are going to hurt. He was literally their brother.
Right.
So
right, that's okay.
Yeah, they'd figure it out.
So let me ask you this question then. So since I've had no success, you had
a little bit.
I had a tiny bit.
Van Halen was pretty good.
Thanks. So what makes it then? Because now my brain now is gonna flip the script a little bit on you. So you're shooting down my names left and right. Lars Ulrich leaves Metallica. You're like, nope, they'll just grab another guy. Chad Smith leaves. These guys, all head out the door. Why then does the drummer make such an impact, or what would cause you to say a drummer has made such an impact that the band couldn't do it? Are you saying that all drummers are replaceable?
I'm saying that all drummers are replaceable. I'm saying that they may not be able to do it to the level of the original drummer. But see, one of the things that's amazing and so fun about drums is that just even on our level, and I'd say, kind of like bar band, maybe small circuit bands. Let's say bar bands, because we spend most of our time playing covers.
Okay.
As a drummer, we can play it a different way than the original way and it not miss a beat. We can bring something to it, and it could be arguable that we add something that's even better than the original, or maybe something that's not quite as good. But guess what? At the end of the song, everybody knows what the song was. So you may not be able to do that. You can't do that as a singer necessarily. You can't go up and start making up your own lyrics to Sweet Caroline.
Right.
You can't play a guitar riff to, like, you can't play My Sharona a different way and say this is My Sharona as a guitarist. You have to stick to that. But as a drummer, you don't necessarily need to do that.
Okay. Well, I got to tell you, I did not expect that answer. I
Yeah.
did not expect that answer.
And I'm not saying a drummer is a drummer is a drummer.
You
I'm
kind of
saying
are,
that
aren't you?
if I'm saying that we can take different approaches to the same song, and the song continue to go, right? So we're able to take more artistic license than maybe other musicians in the band.
Meaning what? Like when you say artistic license, what does that mean?
So maybe, so if you're a drummer with a little bit of a more of a jazz flair, you could bring that to a rock song.
Okay.
If you are a rock drummer, you can bring some of that to R&B and would still keep going. Um, so now that means that though we have the ability to do that without messing up the context of the song, we've got to handle our abilities with responsibility. Because though it can work, doesn't mean that we throw everything within that genre or within our strength, the whole kitchen sink in there. We got to know, though I would like to play it this way and I have the ability to play it this way, I'm not going to, because I still need to serve the song. So there's still some responsibility that comes with that, with all that freedom.
Okay. My next T-shirt will be handling my ability with responsibility.
Right.
All right. Well, doctor, listen, I don't have any other cases to argue when it comes to the impact of the drummers. Um, yeah. Anything you've got to close out on?
Yeah, so I hope that I'm not saying again that people are going, man, this guy, he sure doesn't think very highly of drummers.
That's
No,
what I was
no,
kind of
I just
thinking. I'm
think
like, again, it's been fun, folks. we're
this is
we're
our last
we're going to start a
podcast.
NASCAR podcast next week in case you want to listen to it.
No, no, no. It's, so we're talking about drums in the context of music, right? So it's not just drumming for the sake of drummers. We're not talking about a, a, a contest where we just line up drummers and we see who can do this and who can't do that. We're talking about in the context of music. Drummers are musicians, and though the approach of one musician may be a little bit different than the other musician, if they are skilled musicians, they'll figure out how to put it in a song and make that song work, even though it's not the original drumming.
Uh,
Therefore, we can
but
use other drummers.
you're negating the importance of the personality and the you're trying to you're my opinion is you're cutting away and looking just at the skill part of it. I think there is the human part of it, there is the family part of it, the friendship part of it, the leadership part of it, the influence part of it, that I think certain bands just have fun because they're the band. Like they put it, when you look at the way that they grow together, I think you're not giving enough credence to what would happen if a member of that family quit or died. I think yes, they could from a technical standpoint grab another person, but I would imagine there are some that would have a very hard time walking that path without a family member, don't you?
I do. I agree with that. but we don't know exactly what the dimensions are behind the curtain. I was simply looking from a drumming ability
Sure,
standpoint.
I understand.
When we're listening to a song, we don't see all those other aspects of their relationship. We're just listening to the music. Now, we understand that the product may be a reflection of what's going on, but it can also be a reflection of like some dysfunction. So if we talk about personalities, we understand that, yeah, every drummer's personality is in their drumming. But I don't know if we could say that there is are two personalities as different as Keith Moon and Kenny Jones,
Hmm.
right?
Right.
Two different personalities from Peter Criss and Eric Carr. But look at the quality of music that still continued when those original drummers left, and then those other drummers with more lower key personalities stepped in. So I wasn't looking at it from the camaraderie, which is important, but I'm only looking at it from what do we hear as fans or listeners of those songs or those bands.
Okay. I think for me, and we don't have to agree, that's cool. I just think there's an element that is very important to a band continuing when the specific drummers, would not be with their bands. I think certainly, like, I'm going to go back to Nirvana. Okay. Dave Grohl is I think, in my opinion, never hung out with him, an excellent human being. He seems like somebody that everybody loves, right? You don't ever hear, any anti Dave Grohl rhetoric. He seems to
Hmm.
get along with everybody.
Hmm.
You've only got three people in Nirvana. Kurt's a mess. We know that, right? And unfortunately, he made his choices later in life. I think if somebody like that had left, I don't see the other two guys just grabbing a drummer. I just think that there's a when Nevermind hits, that just like, if all of a sudden he's gone, I don't see those guys just saying, okay, fine, just give me a third.
Okay. So why didn't Rush end after Neil Peart died?
Well, I think maybe you're looking. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying I don't think, because it's a business is what it comes down to, right? It's a business. These people are rich. They're musicians. They're successful musicians. They're going to want to keep making money. But the question was, would it always be that way? And I think there are certain bands that I think the answer would be no. I think there are certain bands that even though it's a machine and it's got to produce money and it's got to have an output. I just think there might be some machines that would be too broken if the drummer had left. I think there would be some machines that just would not produce and would just stop being worthwhile and of interest to the rest of the members if the drummer had left.
And that sounds good, Colin. And I think that reveals your heart, Colin.
It does.
And I hope that me taking the counter perspective doesn't give
No,
people.
listen,
but,
it's okay.
It's just that our benchmark, my benchmark, is Rush, because when you look at it just from a drumming standpoint, nobody plays like Neil. But then when you look at the other contributions, he pretty much was the band. He wrote the music.
Right.
He even brought in the philosophies that they subscribed to. They weren't thinking about this stuff before he got in, right? So he just pretty much filled every corner of the band in the ways that you're talking. Everybody loved Neil Peart. I don't know anybody. I've never heard a bad word about him.
No, how could you? No.
Yeah, right. When he
So
died,
had they not come back, you might feel a little differently, sir. Had Rush
yes,
quit and
I
be
probably
done.
would.
Okay.
I probably would.
Thanks, Alex. Thanks, Getty. way to blow up my episode.
Because if you're looking at from a personality standpoint, one of the great things I love about the Dave Matthews Band and seeing them live is the relationship that the band members have, particularly Dave with Carter.
Mm-hmm.
He seems to be the person where after every song, somebody goes back over to him. He gives him a fist bump. He's laughing with them. If you take him out of the band, you've probably taken away not only the spinal cord, you've taken away the heart, right? But if we're looking at it from the wider perspective, the business perspective,
the machine moves on.
If you look at it from the business perspective, which is really the aspect in which we're listening to, Colin, bands are going to continue.
All right, folks, there you have it. Well, I'll tell you what, this was something. It's I think it's going to go down again in history as the assignment that was never done, that never existed for Glenn. Colin's worst trouncing at the hands of his dear friend on this podcast. So Lord only knows what we're going to do next, because now I got to come up with something. Hey, listen, I got the game episode last time. I thought that went pretty well. This is Glenn's episode, so it always works out in the end.
The game episode went well for you because you were controlling the matchups.
Right.
There was no oversight. Coincidental how I got some of the pairings and you got some of the others. I'm just saying it was just really interesting. I don't remember any roll going in my favor, but
All right, so for our listeners, I just created an Instagram account for Percussionistics. So it is at Percussionistics on Instagram. So I'm going to start to, Glenn, I know you're not big on social media. That's totally fine. But I try to do my best there. So I was telling Glenn, my goal this year for 2026, because concerts are starting soon, is to take pictures of the drummers as close as I can get, because sometimes, folks, I sit on the roof. So if I'm on the roof, you're not going to get any pictures. But if I get close enough, to try to share some drumming pictures. And because you guys know I'll do my concert review as part of the podcast. So, and of course, announcements for anything else that Glenn and I are up to, we'll put there. So there'll be some more socials coming. But right now, at least we've started on Instagram. Glenn, anything else? Any closing comments, sir?
Colin, nice job.
Don't give me platitudes now. You can save those.
No,
you can pack those away. Don't come in there. It was a great job, Colin. You did such a fine job being wrong. Okay, yeah, claps, golf clap for being such a loser.
Listen, I'm not saying you were wrong. I was just saying that I think that my perspective was just a little bit stronger than yours, but you may think otherwise.
I can't wait till we get our third person to break these ties. So, and that's another thing, folks. Glenn and I have had a wonderful time meeting with several individuals, and Glenn and I are going to add a third person to our talent pool here for Percussionistics, and he and I are both very excited. So that's something else we've got in the works for 2026. So, boy, I'll tell you, I hope that person's ready, Glenn, because they're going to have to be the voice of reason when these episodes start to take a right side, left side.
Right.
I hit the two different opinions. They're going to be stuck in the middle. So God bless them ahead of time.
See, Colin, I think that I'm going to be the odd man out with this, because you have this grandfatherly, warm, engaging thing. So I think in an episode like this, that person would jump in on your side to kind of protect you, which was maybe needed, to double, even if they agreed with me, there would be a lot of, well, I hear what Colin's saying.
Boy, I say you're buttering me up now. Folks, when you listen to this episode around the 28-minute mark, remember that Glenn was the guy who was saying, you're getting trounced. Okay? At the 53-minute mark, my good friend is the guy going, you're kind of grandfatherly and warm. There's something about you. It's just really nice. I told you, pack it away, buddy. I got it. I got trounced. That's the takeaway. All right. On behalf of Glenn Jones, I'm Colin Bossler. Thank you again for listening to episode 4 of Percussionistics. Lord only knows what's going to happen for number 5, but we're rolling on. Thanks, folks. We appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
All right, sir. You're the stop person there.